One of the most revealing signs that someone is part of an organized effort, whether that effort involves defamation, psychological warfare, or coordinated manipulation, is when their behavior resonates perfectly with the organized narrative. In simple terms, when multiple people in separate places start telling the same story, using the same phrases, same archetypes, same villain, within the same time frame, it is rarely coincidence. That kind of alignment suggests coordination. The power of narrative. Narratives are not just stories, they are tools of control. So when a group wants to discredit or destroy someone, they don't need direct proof or confrontation. All they need is a repeated story. One consistent enough to create belief through repetition. This is why propaganda, smear campaigns, and even spiritual gossip all operate the same way. They craft a storyline, they assign roles: hero, victim, villain. Then they spread it through multiple voices. And they time it strategically so it appears confirmed through echo. So when the same plot lines begin appearing in different places at once, especially when those people claim not to know each other, you are seeing narrative synchronization, which often points to collective orchestration. So the timeline. If these narratives appear within the same time frame, it's an even stronger indicator of coordination. For example, several accounts, readers, or influencers suddenly start referencing the same archetype: a dark witch, a fraud, a scammer, a karmic villain, or someone going crazy. All within days of each other. This timing pattern shows that information, or rather disinformation, is being passed behind the scenes. The consistency of the narrative and the synchronicity of its release betray the illusion of spontaneity. So what appears like coincidence is, in short, group plotting disguised as collective intuition. So how does the organized resonance works? In psychological and social operation, this is called narrative reinforcement. Each person involved doesn't need to tell the full story. They just have to echo pieces of it. Together, these fragments create the illusion of a shared truth. This is why it's so dangerous. It manipulates perception, it isolates the target, it creates a false consensus. To the uninformed audience, it looks like everyone is saying the same thing. Therefore, it must be true. But what's really happening is controlled amplification. Different voices echoing one directive to reinforce the same illusion. From a spiritual perspective, organized narratives are the tools of entities or energies that thrive on confusion and division. It will never be light. They work through alignment in deception. A group vibration focus on distortion rather than truth. Psychologically, this is called collective gaslighting. The group mirrors each other's lies to rewrite reality for the target and the audience. And when many people repeat a falsehood with confidence, it begins to sound like fact. And that's the hypnosis of repetition. So when you see multiple individuals spreading nearly identical accusations, praises within a narrow window of time, that's not spiritual synchronicity, that is coordination, and it suggests communication behind closed doors. It also implies of shared motive, and it exposes the pattern of an organized narrative. The truth doesn't need a timeline or a team. Only lies require coordination. Take for instance Goddess Nicole / Karmic T. So in her fabricated stories, her so-called villain, the Queen of Wands, is portrayed as a leader who's not a good leader. A teacher who cannot teach, and a fraud posing as enlightened. At the same time, she biasly elevated a Queen of Cups energy, her supposed heroine, describing her as the good leader. And within these recurring narratives, that Queen of Cups was also the side chick. But that's not the point of this video. Now, just yesterday, another reader, Run1 Tarot, released a video titled Spiritual Leader is Now Being Scapegoated. But in her reading, she was really describing this leader as someone guilty. Now, in the comment section, someone pointed out something that stood out to me, saying, if they are guilty, then it's not scapegoating. And I completely agree. By simple discernment, the use of that term, scapegoated, is a red flag in this situation, because the word scapegoat applies to someone being unfairly blamed, not to someone truly guilty of wrongdoing. So when you see a pattern of readers using these kinds of psychological or spiritual terms incorrectly, it is a clue. It reveals more about them than the story they are telling. Like what I've said before, it is often the small details, not the dramatic accusations, that exposes the truth. Small details that can easily be overlooked. Details in the background, and more often than not, things unsaid. So the inconsistencies, the misplaced words, the emotional undertones, they make far more sense than the piles of bullshit they tried to feed the public. Today, another reader appeared with a reading titled, A False Spiritual Advisor is Going Down. And right there, in the comment section, the same familiar name showed up. Someone with a long history of bashing a Queen of Wands archetype across multiple comment sections, constantly accusing her of something. And this person even claimed that it was an ex in his neighborhood. So what do we see in here? It is the same recycled themes, sometimes rephrased. So the same villain archetype being called a fraud, a scammer, a bad leader. It has the same core narrative being circulated through multiple voices. And this is not a coincidence. It's pattern repetition, a coordinated attempt to reinforce one storyline through different messengers. And that is exactly how organized narratives work. Each person adds a fragment, but all are echoing the same illusion. So one thing about me, I'm not a self-proclaimed anything. I don't go around naming myself a goddess, a leader, a prophet, or a divine messenger. I only said what made sense to me. I don't need labels nor other people to confirm and to validate my connection to the divine. I do not need to label and speak for the truth that is shown and realized. Now, when it comes to scamming, so what is a scam? A scam is fundamentally a fraudulent operation that has the intention of stealing something of value. And I believe by now we all know that I'm not the scammer here. If these individuals were proven to be using gang stalking techniques, deceiving, manipulating, it doesn't make sense that I am the scam. Now, whether you call me a scammer, an angel, chosen, the devil, Cruella, or wicked, it really doesn't matter. Because what you see, what you assume has nothing to do with me. Your perception is a mirror of your own consciousness and not a reflection of my essence. I am who I am and not because of what you name me, but because of what I embody. I have learned that people project what they cannot understand. To some, light looks like danger. To others, truth feels like attack. And so they give it names. Names that make them feel safe. And names that make sense to their limited understanding. But I refuse to be boxed in by anyone's definition. I won't be reduced to fit inside the boundaries of your expectations or your comfort zone. I'm not here to be understood. I am here to exist fully, to express what is real, and to speak what is true. Now, I may have not spoken all of my truths, and you have assumed that I have no accountability. But what you don't understand is that quiet gap is your assumption. All I know is I was never meant to be a character in someone else's illusion.